Okay, now here I go. I'm getting ready to make my beef stew, which is a little different than some people make, I guess you could say. Now, what I've got here that I'm starting out with, just to start for my marinade the day before, is this. Some beef cross-cut hind shank, bone in, so you can see the bones are in there. And this is a wonderful piece of meat. It's a low-cost piece of meat too. See, if you look at this, it's a little over a pound and a half, and it's not even $5, so 150 baht for those in Thailand that are watching. So this is a good piece. There's more bone in it, and this comes out really tender and nice. So you got a couple of these. I'm thinking about putting a third one to it, but they're frozen. But I'll just do the two. And here, I am out of my regular soy still. So I have this mushroom flavored soy, so I'm going to use this Healthy Boy brand. Then I have my thing to mix it in for marinating. Pressure cooker is what we're going to end up cooking it in. And last but not least, one of the most important things here is my Keith Lorain's oxtail seasoning. Yes, Keith makes a bomb seasoning. It is wonderful. This stuff's gold when you're cooking a pot roast or oxtail or anything like that. So here you go, and we're gonna go and marinate. Okay, so now we've put all these inside here. We use cold, remember that cold water. We're not trying to cook it yet. And we want you to clean this off real good, like clean these off, get them ready. One reason to clean these really well is the taste. They have you'll notice right when you open the package, this cut of meat has a strong odor to it, so it won't be as appetizing if you leave too much of the odor to it. So rinse it off. You know, this meat is already very tender, and you can put your finger through it. It's almost like a good wet aged beef, like ready to fall apart on you. So that's pretty much it. So you rinse the pieces off like that, and then we'll go and start marinating them. Okay, now what we've done is we've put the meat inside this stainless steel thing here, and we'll take our soy sauce, which, like I said, this one's mushroom flavored. I really don't want to use this, but I don't have any regular soy right now, so we'll take that and we'll move it around. Remember, like I said, this meat is ready to fall off the bone right as it is. It's that moist. So shoot a little more in there. Like this. And this stuff's kind of sweet too. As you can see, mix your meat around in there, get it all nice and wet with the soy. Okay, so we're good there. Now we're going to have to use the instant seasoning. Adding my Keith Lorain's oxtail beef stew seasonings, which is one of the prizes of this. Put what had fallen out in there. And again, this is Keith's seasoning. Yep, that's Keith's picture on it. And it's his Keith's beef stew oxtail seasoning, and it's definitely worth every penny of grabbing it. It is really good. I'm gonna use the rest of this on this one. Keith, I gotta buy some more from you. So anyway, here we go. So I'll take this, basically mix it around, get it all covered in the seasoning and in the soy sauce, like so. Just the smell of that seasoning is wonderful. Alright, I'll go wash my hands a little bit. Now, we've mixed that up now, and what I want you to do is to, now one thing you can do is you can leave it right in this, and you can cover this with cellophane or whatever, and you can marinate it just like that. I prefer not to, though. I like to use a Ziploc freezer bag, and the reason why is it keeps the marinade with a much better contact with the meat. So gives a better marinade. So we're gonna put this in. You gotta marinate this for at least 4 hours, but I prefer you do this overnight, literally overnight, and let it marinate thoroughly. And it's going to be delicious. So there we go. Now we have marinated the meat. It's inside here, nice and marinating. See how it sucks some of the air out of this bag? So now it kind of squeezes in a little bit, and it keeps the marinade very well in contact with the meat. So you gotta make sure the marinade's all over it really well. And instead of laying your bag like this inside the refrigerator while it marinades, turn it like this, because even more will come in contact with the meat. And then halfway through your marinating process, whether you're going to do it 4 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, whatever, flip the meat and let it, that way any that soaks under will go to the other side and marinate it evenly. Okay? Okay, so now that you've marinated this overnight, or at least for 4 hours, one thing I want you to do now is take this out of your refrigerator. It's going to be cold to the touch, and I want you to let this sit for a couple hours. Let it get to room temperature before you start cooking it. So yeah, let this, there's the bone in there. So let this sit out, let it get to room temperature. Sorry about my dirty stove. And this will be nice and tender and ready to go, and you throw this in the pot. We're going to start showing you how to cook this as soon as it gets to room temperature. Okay, now that we're coming to room temperature on our meat here, like I said, this could take several hours to get it down to room temperature from taking it out of the refrigerator. I want you to get your onion straws here. Now you can leave it's actually a crappy green onion straw thing. It came from a store I don't normally like to get them from, but I am going to trim the ends off of it. I just don't like the way these look, but here's what we're going to do. I'm going to chop these in big pieces like this. I'm going to leave this piece on for now, which will make it easier to do. Now I have a food processor, a little one right here, that I'm going to dump this in. Because I want to process this. Yeah, I know it's a curse to do that with your knife, but I have other plans here. And I sharpen mine, so it's my problem. Okay, now I don't really like to use the very bitter strong ends, but I do like to use as much of the green as possible off them. So I will remove the green off of these as far back as it goes. I don't really want the very bittery white end. It's more pungent than the rest. So I'll take the rest of these and I'll chuck them, so I don't need them. So there we go. That's all of the green onion. So 1 bushel of that, a green onion in there. Should do it. Sometimes I'll add more if I want it, but that's good for now. Okay, due to the same store that I'm not too thrilled with, that I asked my pickup person to go pick up groceries from, went to the store I didn't want them to go to, and in turn this is what happened. So I'm having to use a little bit of yellow onion I had left over from something else, which is not quite what I wanted, but okay, I have to do. So I'll take that off. Now what I want you to do is just pretty much chop this into big chunks, because we're going to run it through a food processor, so it's not going to be needing to be chopped up any finer than whatever you can do to fit in the food processor. So there we go. I have a very small food processor, so I might have to chop this up a little bit more to run it through this one. I need to get another big one. I just haven't bothered. So I've been working with this one for entirely too long. Nope. And here you go. So all of this will go into my miniature little food processor. And that'll be that. Now, I'm going to leave out this one little piece. I don't need all that. Put this here. I do this very, very similar to how I do my oxtail, but it's actually a little different. The meat's different. Some of the spices are the same, but it's really, really good. So, it's my little food processor, and here we go. As I get a little bite to it, now I want to take out and do my garlic. add my garlic to it. There's one little thing that drives me nuts is I got to remind people, don't take the fresh cloves of garlic and don't put them in the refrigerator. They're dried for a reason. Now here's a fresh clove of garlic, or a whole, whatever you call it, head of garlic. Anyway, I've had to deal with, you know, past roommates and people putting these from the counter into the refrigerator. Don't do that. They start to grow once they get a little moisture to them. So you want them dry. And that's how you get a good garlic. If you put them in the refrigerator, they'll start to grow because that little bit of moisture, that condensation gets in them, will start making them grow. And that ruins the clove when you try to cut it up. So just take a clove like this, peel all that skinny stuff off. Now, I chopped the little dry end off. And that's just my personal thing. Call me weird, but just my thing. Now I'm going to chop this one up into a few pieces to make it smaller so I know it blends a little better. And I don't want to do it as fine as I have done it, but this will do just fine. I'll throw that in it. Now I minced up a little bit of this over here in the food processor just so I could get enough room to put this in there, because it's a small processor. You can always do that when you're working with a small processor. Just take your stuff, put in when you get it full, just process for a split sec, let it grind it down a little bit, and then you're good. Now here, when you're trying to get this, sometimes it's hard to get the skin off. Turn your knife backwards to the back side of the blade and just go like that. Just press it across it and it'll pop off that loose skin, the dry stuff, and then you'll be left with the good stuff. This one's a little harder than most. Okay, so anyway, then I'll chop as usual, break it up into little pieces and put it back in there, and you can continue to do that. Now I'm using 2 big cloves and one little tiny one, because I don't want that much. I don't have that much going in here, so it's not going to be that big of a stew. I'm only cooking for a couple people, so not that big a deal. But yeah, so, and this one's so small, and I have my long fingernail, which is making things more and more difficult lately. I need to shave them. I've actually grown fond of them. And that'll be it. Okay, this is how it goes. Put this on and go. Now after a minute, it's some of the stuff's not gonna move down. So what I'll do is I'll take a fork and just go in here and I'll stir this around a little bit to make sure we chop this up evenly, so the onion straws that are really light go from the top and actually get sucked down to the bottom. One trick is to point the tip and push it down. Go to one end of the onion straw and push it down. And then what'll happen is when the food blades there, the processor blades, will catch it and pull it down. Or you can get a Ninja, that works even better with dual blades. And just scrape it off the sides a little bit, bring it down again, on we go again. There we go. Okay, now you're going to have to put some mushrooms in here too. So, these Monterey mushrooms are what I'm using. These white ones like this from Monterey. They're produced right here in Florida, so it's fresh, the closer you get it. Now one trick about mushrooms is, on the underside here on this type, now Portobello is different, but on this type of mushroom, you see how it's sealed right here? It's closed. And you see if I make a little cut, I can go underneath, you can actually see inside the mushroom there, that hole. Well, on the mushrooms that you buy, you really should, I mean, it's my personal preference too, but from what I understand, it's quite a few chefs' personal preference too. But I don't want this open. So, like this one had the stem broken off while I was washing it, so it's open. That's not a problem. But it's ones like this right here. It's a nice big one, but see how it's wide open right here? And that's the way it came. I don't want this one, so I'm not going to use him. I'm only going to use the ones that were sealed, like this one. See, it's sealed all the way around. those are the ones I'm going to use. Now they're sealed. And this one, wide open. I don't want it. Too old. Okay. Now let's chop them up. Now one trick to chopping mushrooms is it matters how you want to cut them. Now I remove my stem like this. And they say there's a lot of good nutrients in the stems, but you know what? You can eat those raw, have fun. And I cut the stem off, then I can lay it flat like this. Then I can chop, 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 chop. And I just chopped up my mushroom, all nice and, you know, small little things there. So there you go. Nice sliced mushroom ready to go into the pot. Okay, now the other way you can do this, again, you can remove the thing if you want. But what I've seen is some people make one slice through like that. Okay, and this is how they slice it in the other direction. Then, instead of slicing it like I would the other way, like this, choop, 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 now you got that flat spot, you can turn it sideways like this, and you can do this kind of chop, where you leave the stem attached. See that? That's how you do it with the stem attached. So that's mushrooms for you guys. Okay? I'm going to chop the rest of these and we'll get ready to go on the next one. I was very, very lazy today. I wasn't in the mood to peel and skin potatoes and, you know, boil them and do all that stuff. So I went on the easy route, which you can do too. I'm just cooking for families. I'm not trying to impress anybody. This food's going to be delicious no matter how I do it. But right here, I went out and grabbed some whole potatoes in a can. So I just cut my peeling and boiling time down. So now I don't have to do that. But I do still want to cut these up a little. You don't want these huge chunks of potato inside your meal. So I just cut them down like that to pieces about that big. And that's something somebody can chew on. Don't need this huge hunk of potato for somebody to eat. Now, like I said, normally I would actually do these fresh myself, shave them, and you know, boil them down until they're tender to about the same consistency as these, which is a perfect consistency. And I'll add these in after I start my food cooking. You don't want to put these in, and I mean, you could try putting a potato and cooking it all the way through, and you could do that with the stew. My problem is because it's not in water, it's not going to soften as much, and a lot of times you might, you know, overcook your dish a little bit before your potatoes are done. So this is just a quick little way to ensure that they're going to be right, and you know, it's not the best, but it'll do and save you a hell of a lot of time in the kitchen. Yes, I'll eat them just like this. I am Irish, so I love my potatoes. But it's just an easy little thing you can do to save yourself a lot of time. So there you go. Now, one other thing I add to this right about the time I do the potatoes is a can of sweet corn. Yep, Green Giant sweet corn. Whole kernel. Now, you wouldn't do that fresh off of your own corn on the cob. I just literally take it right out of a can, drain all the fluids off, put a little bit of the fluid into the pot too. But there you go. I like corn in my pot, in my beef stew. Okay, one other time saver. You want carrots, right? Get these baby already shaved carrots. Gonna save you a lot of time. Throw them right in. You're not gonna have to deal with chopping carrots or anything like that. And they're just as good as chopping them yourself. So there you go. Unless you get those giant carrots, which have a really good flavor to them. Can't remember the name of them, but those carrots will work just good, and that'll shorten your time dramatically. Okay, now to the part we've all been waiting on, the actual cooking. Okay, first things first, take some extra virgin olive oil. Now I've got this one with a little bit left in the bottom, so I will be using that. And then I've got this one as my replacement to go in. Any brand like this is okay. It's extra virgin. I mean, if you really want to get crazy, I can give you some expensive tips, but this is good just the same. But make sure it's extra virgin. It's much healthier for you too. So we're going to take this, I'm going to pour some in the bottom of this. Like I said, I don't have much left in this jar, so that's going to be that for that one. And then we'll open the new jar. Aha, extra virgin. And we'll dump some of this into that for you. And there we go. So that's about enough. You can see how much I poured in there. That's good enough to get you going. And what I want you to do is, with the lid off, I want you to turn your burner on really high. I burn over electric right now on glass, but you can also burn on gas. But as you see, it gets hot. Heating up, baby, heating up. So put this on, let it get really, really hot. And then we're going to add our meat to this that we've marinated. Now here's our meat. We've marinated. We're going to add this in there in a minute when it gets nice and hot. In the meantime, I want you to take those carrots you bought, and I want you to put those into a side pot and start boiling them to soften them, okay? Now one other critical thing, after you put your carrots in here and start heating them up to go, make sure you save a few out. So that you can munch on them while you cook. Very good. Okay, now I can see it smoking a little and I can smell that olive oil. I want to add my meat. Yeah, that's what you want. You want that sizzle. Make sure you get all the juice that you marinated it in to go in there with it. Gotta spread these bad boys out on the bottom like that. Make sure you have a good heavy meat mover like this. Anytime you work with this or oxtail. And here, stir it around. Look at that meat. This meat is just wonderful. Now, I'm going to put my lid on. I'm going to lower my heat down to low. I just want to keep it hot. So we'll put it on a high-low for now. Maybe number 2 or 3. And we're going to leave it there on that. I don't know what your stove's set for, but we're going to let it pressurize. Okay, well now after you've cooked it for 5 or 10 minutes on the high end of the low medium, what I want you to do is open your pressure cooker. Make sure you've released the pressure before you go just opening it, because you could hurt yourself really bad. Most of them have a safety feature, but some don't. So here it is. I want you to stir it around. Flip that meat over that you put in there that kind of bottomed around. I want you to take them out. Flip them over on their other side. Again, you need some kind of heavy meat mover like this. So you can get down in there and flip them. Now they're going to start making their own juice in here too. That smells so good. And that's Keith Lorraine's oxtail seasoning in here. Beef stew and oxtail seasonings. Oh man, so good. Definitely worth having. We're going to move this around and get that in there to start cooking down there. This piece actually I think needs more on the other side than it does this side. Just make sure you kind of flip them evenly and try to move them around so that you get as much of this meat towards the bottom as you can, so it gets enough heat to it and exposed. And then we'll put the lid back on this for a minute. We can always add a little bit more olive oil if we feel we need it. Not quite sure where I put mine. There it is. We can add just a little dab will do you of some more of that olive oil in there. Try not to get it on the meat. Try to put it around the sides of it or whatever. And that way it can seep down under. And then shaking it works really well to mix it in. So then we'll close this one up, twist it and lock it, boom. And as soon as this one's done, this little orange bead right here will pop up, blocking it, and it'll start pressurizing. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to open it up and add the mushrooms. So what we're going to do is release the pressure. By doing that, you hit this. Okay. So we're going to release the pressure. There's a lot of pressure in these. If you just go and open it without releasing it, you're going to burn yourself really bad. The smell coming out of this is wonderful. I wish you could smell this. This is why we need to invent smell-o-vision, because then you can smell this. Oh, so good. Makes your whole house smell wonderful. There's a lot of pressure. Sometimes you got to remove this from the heat to get it to release enough pressure. So I think we're good now. We've released the pressure. Here we are, people. Look at that meat. Oh, look at that gravy it's creating too. Oh, it's creating this wonderfully rich, delicious, juicy stuff in the bottom of that. Okay. So now what I want you to do, without stirring it too much, I'm going to flip this. That's about it. And if I can flip it, there we go. I'm going to put it on the low side over here so it gets just as much heat. I'm going to take my mushrooms that we chopped up earlier. I'm going to dump them right on the top, just like that. I don't want them to hit the bottom. I just want them right on the top. It's going to work almost like steaming them. But it's going to steam them in that wonderful scent, that juicy, wonderful scent. Oh, so good. But here's the thing. Mushrooms are great for introducing or holding flavors. So here's the trick. These are like sponges. So this is going to sit here on top and absorb all this wonderful aroma that I can smell. Not only is the meat going to have that flavor, but the mushrooms will hold it throughout the entire dish. And that's why we put these mushrooms in here like this. And it's going to really, really help this dish. So I'm going to put the lid back on. I'm going to cook it for a little bit longer, on medium this time. We're going to pressurize it first. Once the pressure happens, we will flip it. Well, let's go to a low high, medium high. We'll build up the pressure. Once the pressure hits, we'll drop it to low and we'll let it sit there for about 10 minutes. Then let it actually get those mushrooms nice and incorporated with those flavors the smell that's coming out of it right now. And that's what we'll have. And meanwhile, our carrots are almost ready. Okay, now we're going to get ready to open this up again. Yep, loud and noisy, but smells wonderful. Thanks, Keith. Okay, now that our mushrooms have incorporated some of those wonderful scents and juices on their own, and you see we've created quite a bit of a broth down here, and that's just oils and everything from the meat. The meat shrunk up a bit, still producing that wonderful aroma. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take all of that wonderful onion that you made with garlic, and we're now going to put that in here. Oh yeah. Add that to this one. Straight out of our little processor. And we're going to mix that around in here a little bit. Now we don't matter if the mushroom gets mixed in too, because the mushroom's going to help hold that flavor. Now remember, if you're lucky at the end of this, in the middle of these pieces of bone will be a lovely piece of bone marrow, which will be very tender and very delicious. In fact, I will show you another recipe where I use these same bones to make a bone marrow recipe, actually. Make a dip, a pate, or would you say, out of that bone marrow. And it is delicious. So, there we go. We've kind of got these all nice and juicily mixed up, moved around, kind of flatten them back out again down there. That way they all get nice and juicy. I want to get them as much in the fluid as I can. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to seal this back up for a little bit, but there's more to this. After I seal it, we're going to actually get everything ready. We're going to reopen it. We're going to introduce a little beef bouillon. Yep, beef bouillon. Or beef broth. And we're going to pull the beef broth in there. And we're going to start building it up and making it more of a stew instead of what it is now. Oh yeah, before I totally forget, now is when you can add a little bit of that corn juice to it. Not much, just a little. Then we're going to drain off the rest of that corn juice, like I'm doing right now behind this camera. In this sink. I'm trying to get every drop out because I put a little bit in there. I don't want too much in there. Now, I've got a whole can here. And this can is about 15.25 ounces, or 432 grams for my overseas friends. I'm not going to put the whole thing, I'm going to put a good amount of it. So now is when I want to put it in. And you can actually watch how much I'm putting in here. I think corn does something for beef stew. So there you go. Yeah, I put about 2/3, a little over 3/4 of that can of corn into that. And now, see if I can, splash a little too much. Ooh, that was hot. Right on the hand, but tastes great. So I'm gonna get that corn going in there now, like so. We're gonna get all that down in there. And now we're just gonna seal this back up and start cooking it. I'm gonna cook it for a little bit, about another 10 minutes or so. Let it pressurize, let it sit for 5 to 8 minutes pressurized on a low heat after it pressurizes. No problem lining that one up. Okay. And then, so hit it on high, let it pressurize. Once it pressurizes fully, and your little thing pops up here, or however yours is, then let it sit there and do its thing for about 5 to 7 minutes, maybe 8 minutes. So I'm done heating it now. I went and checked my beef broth. I didn't like it. It's been sitting in the fridge a couple days, and I don't know, I didn't like the way it looked or smelled. So I'm not going to take a chance. I'm very picky about that. It was used just 4 days ago on a meal, and I was going to use the rest, the other half of it this time, but I'm not going to skip that one. So we're going to add the potato now instead, while we wait on my helper to go run and get some beef broth from the store, because I'm out. So again, we're going to release the wonderful aroma and smell from the beef broth. I mean, from the seasonings. This smells so good. I really, really wish you guys could smell this. Anybody who's cooked Keith Lorraine's beef stew and oxtail seasoning knows exactly what I'm talking about. The smell of this stuff is unbelievable. It's definitely one of those, it's definitely like my top spice. I love this more than just about anything else. And I was using my own oxtail seasoning and beef stew seasoning for years, which I gotta say comes close to this. But man, he just put it right over the top. I mean, it's an unreachable goal to try to compare to this. His seasoning is by far the best I've ever had. So that's why I had to bow out and say that his is better than mine and start using his. And as a chef, somebody who cooks a lot, you know that's hard to do. Because you always want yours to be the best. But yes, his did outdo mine big time. So now I am going to add the potatoes into this, and my carrots still aren't ready. You want to wait till you get like a yellowish froth on top of the carrots there, and that'll kind of tell you that they're done, because the sugars from the inside are coming out. Carrots contain a lot of sugar to them. A lot of people don't realize that, and they're really good for cutting in tomato sauce. One of my little secrets. Instead of adding sugar to your tomato sauce to cut the acid, definitely should think about using carrots. And I'm not going to give you any more secrets out of my spaghetti sauce, because that's a family secret that I will not be releasing anything else about it. But yeah, that's one show you can't get some of my best recipes. And this is one of my best right here, making this an oxtail like this. I love making them, and especially with Keith's seasonings. I can't speak enough about Keith's seasonings. I mean, seriously, they are by far, this is the best oxtail and beef stew seasoning I've ever found. And I've tried everything. And I too am a world traveler who's been all over the world. Went all the way around the world, 360 degrees, and this is the best I've ever found. So, I hope you guys enjoy this. Order some of his spices, try them out. No, I am not paid to plug him, in case anybody's asking. But no, I'm just a big fan. I really, really like his spices. So now we're gonna seal this back up, and I'm gonna cook it for, I'm just gonna I'm gonna put it on high just to get the pressure up. Once my little thing pops up and my pressure goes in, then I'm gonna turn it all the way off, or turn it down to really low and just let it sit for a little while till my my broth gets here so that I can start working that. Okay, so now what I've done is I've opened it back up, and I'm going to add in the carrots. I think that's about all the carrots I want in there right now. I don't want to put too many. And now I'm also going to take the beef broth. I'm going to dump beef broth in here. You can add a little pork broth to this too. So I'm going to put about half of this thing. It's 32 ounces of beef broth, or 2 pounds. So I'm going to put about a pound of beef broth in here, like that. Shake it up a little bit. Spread these around. Oop, somehow that got in there. And we're gonna do this. So you get the idea. Actually, maybe a little bit more carrot. That'll work. The only thing I wish I had a little bit more of that spice with me right now, but I'm actually running out. So that was the last I had. So I ordered more tonight. 3 or 4 more packs of it. So here we go. Seal that one up. We'll put it on high till we get the pressure built up, and then we'll drop it down to low and let it sit for about 15 minutes or so. Okay, so now we've cooked this and we're about done, so we're going to release some pressure. I've already took this off of heat for a while, so it's not hot really that much anymore. Smells good. Very, very, very good. Let me move it a little bit off of the burner may be off, but there's still residual heat, which will slow this down from doing what it's supposed to do. And you want to go until you see the little red thing pop down right here. Although yours might be a little different, but there's usually something. I like these because it has a little thing to signal me that it's the pressure's out. Now another thing, when you go to open these and you turn it, don't lift it this way, because if you lift it this way, up like that, you're going to get all that heat's going to come right at you. So try to tilt it off the other way like that, and then you'll see all that steam will come out the other side, which won't be directly affecting you. And then you can take it off. That way you don't burn your hand. Beef stew. Like I said, you can add more to this. You can add some fresh parsley. You can add some cilantro or any kind of spices you want, oregano, whatever. You can add to whatever you feel. I think Keith's oxtail and beef stew seasoning does perfect, so I don't think you're going to need anything else. But so there you go. Now you can start bailing that out, and you can start serving it to your hungry family. And this is an award-winning beef stew. Well, it will be if you ever enter it into one. I need to enter it into something, because it is delicious. And it's all made possible by those seasonings. But the cut of meat that I chose, that cross-cut Heinz shank, is wonderful for this. The meat is soft. It's got a perfect, it absorbs flavors really well. That bone's in there, the marrow's in there. I mean, it really helps with the flavor. Bone in is definitely wanted for this, because you can pull out the bones after, but they add so much flavor to this. It's wonderful. So here we are. Wonderful, delicious, ready to eat beef stew. Okay, so now we've finished cooking my beef stew, which is wonderful. If you can come in, you can actually get a look at this. This is a delicious, delicious beef stew. So good. And that's what we cooked today. So this is Wayne's Kitchen signing off with Wayne's Beef Stew. And remember one little rule I have: you cook the dinner, let them do the dishes. You earned it. Thank you. Good night.